Alrighty, here we go. Talking about the Broncos now. Broncos head coach Vic Fangio plans to split training camp reps 50-50 between Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. Thank goodness. Yes, sir. Glad that Teddy Bridgewater is getting a fair shot here, which we knew he would. I mean, they got Teddy Bridgewater before the draft, and then they didn't draft the quarterback. So they are solid. They are sold that Teddy Bridgewater or Drew Lock will be their main guy at the start of the season, and that's fantastic because we saw what Drew Lock did last season. Nothing truly that good. Teddy Bridgewater, good stats, but didn't lead to a good record. So let's see. Let's break down the stats of these two quarterbacks, these two dueling quarterbacks that are going to be going at it here at the training camp when those begin. So Drew Lock last season, 57% completion percentage, just truly awful, man. That is just so disgustingly bad. He played 13 games as well last season, threw for 2,900 yards, a little, decent. It's not great. He played, not 16 games, so he's not up at the 3,000 yard mark. So we can kind of forgive the yards a little bit, only playing 13 games, but we can definitely not forgive this 16 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. So we got awful completion percentage and awful touchdown to interception ratio, leading to a 4-9 record. So definitely nothing great last season. Where we look at Teddy Bridgewater, good completion percentage, 69%, 3,700 yards, very well in 15 games, 15 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Once again, a little, not 2-1, which is trash. Having double-digit interceptions is definitely not good either. So definitely has to clean up those interceptions for Teddy Bridgewater. But the yards were there, the completion percentage was there, and then the other knock that we have on Teddy Bridgewater last season was just him not being clutch. Only went 4-11. Now all these games were really close. They really only got blown out or lost by 2 possessions in only 2 games last season. So, Teddy Bridgewater is looking kind of like the clear-cut option. I think he can beat Drew Lock 50-50 head up like that. I think he can. Another thing let's check out before we, move off of this topic is what were these games like last season for the Broncos and the Panthers? Were these close games? Were these competitive games? So here we go with Drew Lock. He went 4-11 last season. Nothing great, like we said. Or 4-11 or 4-9. He played 13 games, went 4-9, right? Okay. So in 4-9 record for Drew Lock, let's see what his games were looking like. Started out with a loss to the Titans, only 2-point loss there, 16-14, not bad. He threw 66%, 1 touchdown, no picks, so had a decent game that game. Already, we'll give him that one. And then they lose again to the Steelers, 21-26, but this time he had 20% completion percentage. He only played five throws, so he got injured that game. Then he was out for the next 2 weeks. Then he comes back week 5. Alrighty, now they get the win. Fantastic. They win 18-12 against New England though, and he had 2 interceptions and 41% completion percentage. Absolutely not good. But then they get blown out by the Chiefs, 43-16. So that's one blowout loss there for Drew Lock and the Broncos. They beat the Chargers 31-30, a 1-point win there. 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. That's not too bad. Then they lose Atlanta by 7 points, 27-34. He had 52% completion percentage that game. Absolutely not good. Then they get blown out by the Raiders, 12-37. Geez, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, 48% completion percentage. Absolutely not good. They beat the Dolphins. We don't talk about that. Unfortunate. He did throw a pick and no touchdowns. Just the Dolphins did not show up that week. Truly unfortunate. Then he doesn't play week 11 because of the COVID-19. And then he's back to losing against the Chiefs, 16-22, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 53% completion percentage. They lose against Buffalo, 19-48, another blowout loss there. Absolutely big old blowout loss. Wow. Didn't even throw a pick there, just didn't do anything good. 132 yards passing for Drew Lock. They lose to the Chargers, 16-19, and then they lose to the Raiders by 1 point to close out the season. So only 3 blowout losses for Drew Lock last season, so I guess not awful, but just not getting it done. All these interceptions. He played 1 game, 2, 3, 4, like 4 full games without throwing a pick. And now when we look at what Teddy Bridgewater did last season during his games, Alrighty, here we go. Opens up with the Raiders, loses by 4, 34-30. 1 touchdown, no picks, 64% completion percentage, 269 yards, trying to do it all himself. Then they lose against the Bucks, 17-31, so a blowout loss there. 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, not good. But he had good completion percentage, 78%, just couldn't get it done through those picks, not great. Then they go on a 3-game winning streak. Very well done, which brings them to their next loss against Chicago. But once again, 1 possession, 16-23 loss there. No touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So truly, you know, his reason why they lost. Then they lose by 3, 27-24 against the Saints. 2 touchdowns, no picks, 82% completion percentage. So still, you know, very good in that loss. Just unfortunately lost by 3. Then they lose to Atlanta by 8, 17-25. 1 touchdown, 1 interception, not his best game. Then they lose against the Chiefs, but close, 33-32. 2 touchdowns, no picks, 73% completion percentage, 310 yards. It's like he's having great performances here in these close losses. Better than we could say that Drew Lock had in those close losses. Just nothing great that Drew Lock showed us. So relying on their defense, relying on their run game, that great run game of Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay in those games. Where, you know, Teddy Bridgewater, no Christian McCaffrey, had to rely on Mike Davis. You know what I'm saying? Alrighty, where do we leave off? This Kansas City game, they lose by 2. Then they lose by Tampa Bay again, getting blown out again, 23-46, a 23-point loss. 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, 75% completion percentage, but only for 136 yards. So the Super Bowl champs, you know, were their 2 blowout losses of the season so far. Alrighty, then they lose to the Vikings by 1, 28-27. Then they lose to Denver by 5, 32-27. Man, oh man, he lost head-to-head to Drew Lock. Not the greatest there. But, I mean, he threw 283 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. He threw the ball 40 times for 283 yards. It's still a decent performance. Unfortunately, he couldn't score the ball, which is still a big not good. But, you know, everything else was great. They lose by Green Bay by 7, 8, 24-16. No picks, no touchdowns, 60% completion percentage, 258 yards. And then their last loss came the very last week of the season against the Saints, 33-7. 2 picks, no touchdowns. So 3 blowout losses for Drew Lock, 3 blowout losses for Teddy Bridgewater. 2 of those blowout losses for Teddy B came from the Super Bowl champions. So we'll see what it's going to look like in camp, but I'm definitely glad that Teddy Bridgewater is getting another chance here. I think Matt Rule kind of kicked him out a little too prematurely, but that's just another head coaching narrative that we can look at. Matt Rule with Sam Darnold now. This is, Matt Rule's guy. He went and traded for him, kicked out Teddy Bridgewater, so Matt Rule is getting somebody that he trusts in and believes in and thinks that can win in this league. So that's another narrative that we are going to have to keep an eye on with the head coaches this season. So a lot of great things to talk about coming up this season. Going to be absolutely fantastic and cannot wait for it.